Okay, we're starting with 2.7. 2.7 is division in applications. That's division of fractions. And the application is word problems. So if you know if you're doing a word problem in this section, you can pretty much know that it's going to be the dividing by a fraction in there. Okay? Division of fractions. Okay, first thing, you need to know what a reciprocal is. A reciprocal is when you flip the fraction over. The reciprocal of 2/3. Oh, I need to turn the lights off. Are you going to be able to see okay? Yeah? Okay. Because you can't see this without the lights off. Okay. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. Just put the top on bottom and the bottom on top. Okay, the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3/1, or you could just put 3. If you have a whole number, like 24, the reciprocal of that, you have to picture it as being over 1. The reciprocal of that would be 1/24. Now the reason you need to know what a reciprocal is because when you divide fractions, you have like 2/3 divided by 5/7. To change division into multiplying, you need to flip the second one over. You never flip the first one. Leave it just like it is. Change this into multiply. You put a dot or you can put an X. And then you're multiplying by the reciprocal. So just flip this one over, 7 on top and 5 on bottom. And then do your normal multiplication. 2 times 7, 14. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's all you have to do. Flip the second one over. If you can simplify this one. You can't do anything with it. Let's do one that you'll end up simplifying. Okay, 6/7 divided by 5/3. Okay, you're going to leave this one, change this to multiply, and you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. 3 goes on top, 5 on bottom. Oh man, that one's not going to simplify either. I was thinking the 3 and 6, but now they're sideways. You can't do any dividing when they're side by side. 6 times 3, 18. 7 times 5 is 35. If you can't divide over here, you aren't going to be able to divide it here. If there wasn't like something you could have divided by 3 on top and bottom, there won't be 1 there. So that's as far as you can go on that. Now let's do one that we really will get to simplify. For positive, sure, okay? For sure. Okay, we have 18/5 divided by 2. Okay, what you need to do is go ahead and put that 2 over 1, so you'll be able to flip it over. Put 18/5, change it into multiply by 1/2. Now you have a choice. You can either go ahead and multiply straight across now and get 18/10 and then reduce, or you can see here that you can divide by 2 before you even multiply. So if you divide by 2 first, you have divide by 2 is 1, divide by 2 is 9. That way you don't have to reduce after you've multiplied. 9 times 1 is 9, 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, the book just left it like this. When I made the grade sheets for you to grade from, I went ahead and put or 1 4/5, because eventually you're going to need to simplify it down to this. So go ahead and do this if you're used to it, and if you're still struggling through the fractions and you at least get this far, you don't need to count it wrong, okay? So that's up to you. If you want to go ahead and get in a good habit of doing it now, then it'll be on the answer sheet, so you'll see if you got it right or not. The 9/5 to get this, in case you don't know how, 9 divided by 5. You do the top number under here, divide it by 5. 5 goes into 9 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtracted is 4. The 4 goes on the top. The 5 goes on the bottom. It's always this one. The remainder goes on top, and the number you're dividing by goes on bottom. Okay, so you can do that if you'd like to stay in the good habit of doing it. Okay, that's dividing by fractions. So you have word problems that have to do with dividing. On most of these, you have a big thing and you're dividing it into, each thing is a part. Like if you had 15 cups of sugar and each recipe took 2/3 of a cup. If you wanted to know how many recipes you could make, okay, in your head you may say, okay, what would I do with these numbers if I knew, if it only took 1 cup, I could do 15 of them, right? I would be doing 15 divided by 1 cup is 15. How about if you had 3 cups for each one? 15 cups of flour. If each recipe took 3 cups, we could make 5 recipes. You do 15 divided by 3. So you're going to divide by how much each recipe takes. You're going to take the total amount you have, and you're going to divide it by how much it takes for each one. How much for each one? So 15, you're going to divide that by 2/3. The 15, make it into 15 over 1. And now you need to flip that over before you do any, try to see if you can do any dividing. Change it to multiplying by the reciprocal. Now you can't do any dividing. Just straight multiply across. 15 times 3, 1 times 2. And of course you would see how many times would 2 go into 45. And that would go 22 times with 1 left over. So that would make 22 and a half recipes. Don't forget when you do word problems to put what this number is. If that's how many electrical cords, if that's how many kilometers, make sure and put what that word problem meant, what the number you came up with, what that expresses, okay? I believe that's about it for 2.7. So now we're going into chapter 3. At any time, you can go ahead and start doing your mid-chapter reviews and your practice test if you're wanting to do the extra credit for the test. If you have time to do it, you can do it anytime. You don't have to wait till the day before the test. So since you know chapter 2 now, this weekend would be a real good time to go ahead and start working on your extra credit if you're wanting to do it. Okay, 3.1. The chapter that you're doing, you're finding least common multiples. LCM, that stands for least common multiple. Which least means the smallest one, right? Smallest thing they have in common. Okay. Multiple. Okay, some people look at two numbers like 4 and 12. And you say, okay, what's the least common multiple? Some people look at it and say, 2. Okay, 2 is not a multiple. That's a factor. Multiples are when you go, like multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Both of these have, it'd be a multiple of 12 and it'd be a multiple of 4, not a factor of them. Okay, there's different ways you can do it. You can write the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 12. You can go 4, 8, 12, 16. You can write multiples. 12, 24, 36. And the first one that they have in common, it has to be the least common multiple. That's the smallest number they have in common. If you kept going, see, 24 they have in common also, but it's not the smallest one. So the least common multiple, you need the smallest one. Okay, that's one way to do it. You can list the multiples. Let's go ahead and do another one where you would do it like this. Let's see, like 35 and 45. Okay. 35, 45. 35 times 1 times 2 would be 70. Times 3, you would add another 35 to it, which would make 105. Add another 35 is 140. Add another 35 is 175. Add another 35, 210. Okay, let's start doing these to see what we have on 45. Times 1 is 45. Next one is 90. Add 45 to that. 135. Add 45 to that. What is it? 180. Add another 45 to that. 215. Oh shoot, it didn't quite work. How about another 45? 250. Okay, are you saying that this could be a hard way to do it? Okay, this one you have 35 more, you're only going to have 245. So it's still going to be a little while, right? Okay, let me show you the other way of doing it, and we'll see how much longer we would have had to work this. On the 4 and 12, if you do it a different way, if you do 4 and 12 as primes, 4 is 2 times 2, and 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. Remember how you do 12 divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. See, 2, 2, 3. Okay, what you want to do for your least common multiple is make sure you have 2's and 3's in there, okay? If there's 2 2's here, and maybe you have another one, there's only 1, you still have to put at least 2, so both of these numbers can go into it. You have to put the most amount that you see it show up on a row. Don't put 4 of them. It won't take 4 to be able to work. The 3, even though there's not one there, there's one needed in there. Okay, 12 will divide into it because 12 is right there. 4 will divide into it because it's right there. Okay? This tells you 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. This is the same number we came up with here. Let's do the 35 and 45 that way. I know you probably have questions on it, and it's kind of confusing, but the more you do, the more it'll come clear, okay? So just hang in there. 35 is 5 times 7. Okay. That one was easy to do. 45 is 9 times 5. But 9's not prime. 9 is 3 times 3 times 5. It's 9 times 5 is 45. Okay, so our least common multiple needs 3's and 5's and 7's in it. We need 2 3's to make sure 45 will go into it. We need a 5. We don't need 2 of them because both of these only have 1. And we need a 7 in it. See, the 5 times 7, 35 will divide into it. 45 will divide into it right here. See, 45 will divide, and so will 35. So this would be 45 times 7. So what's 45 times 7? 35, 28, 29, 30, 31. We would have had to go all the way to 315. So we weren't, it would have took another time or two to get there. And then what if we did one of these wrong? We probably did make a mistake. I don't know. One of these could be wrong. So this is actually a lot better. You're not having to do really long lines like that. So if you can divide it up into primes and then make sure you have the most amount of each factor that shows up on a row. This row has 2 like that. Let's do one that has 4 numbers in it. Because you have problems like that that have more numbers. You have to do number 31 that has 4 numbers in it. So let's do number 32. Because it's going to be like number 31. Number 32 has the numbers 18, 30, 50, and 48. Okay, 18 is 9 times 2. So that's 2 times 9. 9 is 3 times 3. If you need to do the little division thing, do it. Okay, 30 divided by 2 is 15. Divided by 3 is 5. You got 2 times 3 times 5. So you got 10 times 3. 50 would be 10 times 5, right? 10 times 5 is 50. Or you got 2 times 25. So you got 2, 5, 5. 48. Let's go and do that. Divided by 2 is 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we got 2, 2, 2, 2. We have 4 2's and 1 3. For the least common multiple, what's the most 2's that show up there? 4. 4 of them. So we need 4 2's in our least common multiple. How about the 3's? There's 1, 1, 2. So we need to have 2 3's because that's the most. And what about the 5's? 1 and 2. So 2 of them, right? Now when you multiply all that out, we know that this part equals 48, don't we? So we have 48 times 25 times 3 is 75. We can do 48 times 75 and we'll get it. 40, 24, and then do 7 times 8, we have to put the 0, 7 times 8 is 56, 7 times 4, 28, and 5, 33, 6 and 4 is 10, 3,600. And if you take 3,600 and divide it by 18, it should come out even. Divide it by 30, it'll come out even. Divide it by 50 or 48, it should come out even if you divide it by any of those. Okay? And you can look in here and see 233 is right there. 235, you've got that in there. You can look, see and make sure that all these are in there, and they will divide. Okay, so 31, you're going to have to do like this probably to keep you from having super long lines and multiples. Okay? And that's the only one you had to do 4 of them, so that wasn't too bad. Most of them you only do 2 or 3. Okay, I believe, let me see. On the word problems that come with 3.1, it tells you the planet orbits and how many years it takes them to go around. Okay, it says Jupiter takes 12 years, Saturn takes 30 years, Uranus takes 84 years.
Hi, Con.
Hi.
I just wanted to inform all of you that we'll be closing at 5 today until Monday morning at 8.
So no Friday or Saturday classes?
No.
Monday morning at 8?
Yes.
Cool, thanks.
So no
Yep.
classes tonight?
No.
So school will close at 5 till 8 Monday morning.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so you have these number of years it takes to orbit, and it gives you a hint in the directions. It tells you hint. You need to find it out. You find the least common multiple of 12, 30, and 84, and it will be that number of years. So if you were wondering, if on a certain night you look at Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus and wonder how many years it takes before they're in that exact same position again, that you do it by finding the least common multiple. So when you do 51, 52, 53, 54, like 51, it says, how often will Jupiter and Saturn appear in the same direction in the night sky as seen from the Earth? So you look at Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter's 12, Saturn is 30. So you find the least common multiple of 12 and 30. And that's going to give you the answer to 51. So the least common multiple of 12 and 30. 12 is 4 times 3. 30 is 3 times 10. So there's your prime factorizations of those two numbers. What's your least common multiple? The 2 needs to go 2 times, right? You need the 3 1 time, and 5. So you got 6 times 10 is 60, right? What does 60 stand for?
How many years?
Every 60 years. Every 60 years is how often they'll do that. So that's what you're going to do with the 51, 52, 53, and 54. Find the least common multiples. Okay. I think that's about it for 3.1. 3.2, adding. What is the trick for adding fractions? What do you have to have?
Common
Be the same.
Common denominator. Adding and applications. Okay, if you have a word problem in 3.2, what are you probably going to be doing with fractions? You're you're probably gonna be adding the fractions, right? Most likely. So if you look at the word problem, you're like, I don't know what to do with them, look back, what have I been doing? It's probably gonna be what we're studying for that section, okay? And just make a simple problem and see if it makes sense. Okay, if you have fractions, first of all, if you have fractions that already have a common denominator, which one's the denominator?
Bottom.
Bottom, right? Okay, you have to have the bottom number the same. Okay, if it already has the bottom number the same, all you have to do is add the top. 7 plus 2 is 9. Don't add the bottom. Your denominator stays the same. If you had a problem that came out like this, I would put or 1/1/8. 9/8 is improper, so I would change it automatically to a mixed number. Okay, say you have a problem that has different denominators. Let's say we have 3/8 plus 5/6. If it's written like this in a book, I want you to write it going up and down so you can rewrite it. Put it going up and down like this, 3/8 plus 5/6. That way you can put the common denominator on the side over here. It's hard to do the problems when they're written out sideways like that, okay? It may take a little more paper for you, but it's easier to do your work that way. Okay, 8 and 6, what's the common denominator? If you don't want to do the prime numbers, take the biggest one and do the multiples, like 8, 16, 24, 32, until you recognize one, the other one I'm going to.
24.
8, 16, not 16, so it must be in that 24. They both go into 24. Write that common denominator first. Okay, now that you have the 24 on there, what did you multiply 8 by to get 24? Actually write it next to it, okay? Some people just write it once, that's okay, as long as you write what you multiplied. 6 times what is 24?
4.
Times 4. You can just put it right here if you want. I like putting it on the top and bottom. But if you want to just write it once, at least write what you multiply by, okay? 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay? I don't even like it this once. I'm not going to leave it that way. You can do it if you want to, but I like it on the top and bottom. Okay, 9 plus 20, 29. Do you add 24 plus 24?
No.
No, you leave the denominator the same. Okay, is that all we need to do?
We can reduce it.
Yeah, you can reduce it, okay? 24 will go into 29 one time, and how much is left over?
5.
29 minus 24 is 5. So that was what was left over. That's what you should come up with. If you get that far, it'll be counted right though. Okay? How about if you have 3 numbers? They give you like 5/16 plus 7/16 plus 11/16. Okay, they wrote it sideways. If it's got a common denominator, that's okay. You can leave it sideways. So you just add all the top ones, right? 11 plus 7 is 18. What is it?
23.
23? Okay. So that one you could actually say is 1. 16 goes into 23 one time. And you subtract 16 from 23. 7?
Mm-hmm.
7 left over. 7/16 won't reduce, so you're done. should probably be adding a bunch of fractions. Okay? The next section is subtracting fractions. You have to have a common denominator for that. If you wanted to get ahead and start on subtracting fractions, that's fine. Make sure you have a common denominator. And is there any questions looking at the problems before we put everything away?